Okay. You're either on mute or I can't hear you.
Let me see.
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Oh,
it's good
this
to
is
see your smiley face.
This is amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so I haven't actually updated you yet, but in that job journey, I'm on the third round right now. So I'm on June 6th. That's the third round interview.
Congratulations.
And yeah, I'm waiting to pass an assessment and then schedule my Capital One interview for next week. So
Okay.
yeah. Things are moving well, but I'm sure I'm gonna update you soon.
Okay. I can't wait for it. For
Thank
the
you.
news and testimonies and all of that good stuff. I'm excited.
Oh yes, remember, I promised to give that testimony and I will give it.
Yes, you did. You did. I can't wait for it. I'll have my malts and my food.
Okay.
During a party on your behalf.
Just remind me of that. Is it Ike's Cafe? I'm gonna order the Nigerian food from Ike's Cafe.
Thank you. All right. Well, just gonna give a couple of minutes. Hi, Taiwo. Thank you for joining. I do have questions already that some people sent through, so I'm hoping that they join this call because I'm going to take some time to answer these questions. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. Or if you just want to listen, that's absolutely fine. Because I know you're on your own journey, Taiwo, you're on your own journey, so you might have specific questions you want to ask or anything like that. You can put in the chat, and I will get to them as soon as possible. Well, this hour is in your hour. Hi, Taiwo, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. I'm fine.
How's your day? You sound like you can't wait to go and sleep.
Not exactly. I think I'm just ready to there for the night and just relax. I think that's it.
after a hard day's work, right? Like I've solved these people's problem. Let me solve my problem now, right?
I know. Like, I can't even be bothered again. My head will stop thinking about work. I'm like, stop working. Let's go back tomorrow, not now.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you love it, you love it. I know. Definitely work-life balance is super important. But sometimes it's hard. You get to carry the issues. You're thinking about them through the night.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And if you're working in a company where they send emails on weekends, it even makes it worse. My goodness. At least your weekend is going to be involved with thinking and wanting to reply so that people know that you're working, all of that. So and that's one of the things you want to look out for in a company, even when you're interviewing is, well, what is your work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
Do they even respect that at all? Because in as much as we want people to get a job, and that's the goal, I want to believe, is you don't want to get a job in a toxic environment and all of that experience for you. So one day at a time. Well, yeah, but again, Taiwo, feel free again to ask questions or whatever it is that is making you excited or you're thinking about.
Oh no, nothing. I'm just excited about the journey and then thinking about things that might come up, just general things.
Yes.
General thoughts about the journey and everything involved. Nothing really for now, honestly. It's just me worrying as usual.
And that's what's exciting about Scrum Master role, right? No day is the same. So I remember when someone talked about that she doesn't do anything at work and it's just do ceremonies and that's it. And I'm like, if you're not careful, you might be getting a letter saying that they don't need you anymore. Because if you're really thinking as a Scrum Master, you will see a lot of places that you can be valuable and you can help the team or the organization as a whole. There's always going to be an issue. No matter how perfect the Scrum team is, there's always room for improvement. And you might not have the answer. And that is absolutely okay. If you don't have the answer, you have to have the answer to all of the problems. No. One mistake we make sometimes as Scrum Masters or Agilists is we always think we have to have all of the answers. The question, no. What you have to have is the right question. It's the right question. It's asking, well, what do you think? Or how long has this been going on for? What do you think is the root cause for this? What solutions do you have? So the answer doesn't have to come from you. Let the answer come from the team. Because then you're causing them to really think through and be intentional about how to change their way of working, be accountable to the solutions that they provide. What you have to just ensure is, well, if you come up with these solutions, well, who's the action item owner, right? And how are we going to measure the progress? And it's okay for us to fail fast, to come up with action to solutions that are all over the place. That's okay. But at least we're thinking through the problem. So as a Scrum Master, you don't have to have all of the answers, but you have to have the power of asking the right type of questions.
Okay. Okay.
The answers. All right. Let's see. While we're still waiting for more people to join, hopefully they do, and I hope they are not lost somewhere in Mighty Networks. Maybe someone can just send a reminder. I'll reach out to someone, send a reminder on Mighty Networks so they know it's a Zoom.
Would you rather we ask the question on the chat or?
Yeah, you can ask questions on the chat. Or I still want to say, well, you can ask a question in the chat, but I want it to be interactive. So I feel like, you know what, I might get you to ask a question, but thank God you have a timer on your questions.
Okay, so I'm just gonna hit it.
I'm kidding. Feel free. Again, this is your hour, so ask questions. Welcome, Ihoma, to our live coaching session.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. Well, you know, I actually had an icebreaker I wanted to share with everybody before we even, get into it. But let's do that. Let's do that a little bit. Let's do that. And while everyone is joining in, so let me do it. So I want to get to know everyone on the call. I mean, I know, 2 out of 3, but Ihoma, I am kind of like meeting you somehow for the first time. So I put in the chat a link. It's called menti.com. And for those who are aspiring Scrum Masters or current Scrum Masters, this is one of the tools that you can use for, guess what, icebreakers. You can use for your retrospective. You can use Idia Call to lead or facilitate a meeting where the people are meeting themselves for the first time, or probably not for the first time. Maybe you want to get feedback. I mean, there are so many tools out there. So I wanted to kind of like expose you to one of them. So this is called menti.com. And I put the link in the chat and the code. And so I just have 2 slides for you on there. So all you have to do is respond and I will see it on my screen. Let me share my screen so you see what it looks like. So you have about 5 minutes or less to get that done. Okay, I see the questions. I see the answers come through. All right, so I'm writing that out. So you have the 2, I have someone else on the call. All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome. Hi, Sunny. So I'm gonna put it in.
Hi, Steph. How are you?
Thank you. How are you?
Doing well.
Great. Let me put again the link in the chat. So we're just answering some more like an icebreaker question, so I get to know everyone. And again, I put the link in the chat and the code you can use. The original Silicon Valley. I like that. Okay, so let's see. So we've someone from Georgia, someone from the original Silicon Valley, because he's part of the N-Stir Technologies Committee of Practice. I mean, I will let him talk about maybe his experience if you have time. Another person to get more insight about the Scrum framework and how I can help my team do better from the N-Star Group chat. Jenny from Texas, Aubrey, Texas, heard about the coaching from your Instagram. Great, welcome. I think one more person. I think Sunny, probably you're next. You're the last person on there. New Jersey. All right. And for my Instagram page, well, I gotta say, Instagram page is filling up, isn't it? All right. So we have the second slide, which was about your career goal. But it feels like even the way you've answered this question, you kind of like already give me an idea. So for maybe Sonny, for example, what would be your career goal? Or Hiyama, what would be your career goal? What is your career goal? To become a Scrum Master, to switch careers, or to pop your existing Scrum team?
This
Okay.
Sony. I recently became a Scrum Master. I recently landed my role. This is my third week in my role as a Scrum Master. So my career goal is to really continue to grow in this space and really become the best Scrum Master, and eventually maybe a few years to be an Agile coach, but really continue to learn and grow. That's my long term.
Okay, absolutely. You're in the right place then. And you only take someone who's really serious about that career growth to think that way. Because when people get into it, they're be like, yeah, I have made it. But it's way more than that. By the time you get into the field and you meet your team and you meet people who don't even want to hear you and ask you, well, what were you hired for again? It kind of like changes everything real quick. So thank you for sharing that. And again, congratulations. And I see here I talked about career growth, Scrum Master role, and advance in the field. All right, great. So like I said earlier on, I did have questions that came through and I am going to be answering those, but you all have, dips on asking your questions. Like, let me start with you because you're on the call, right? So what questions do you have? Then I can go to the ones that people sent in. Any questions?
I think the first question I had, because I'm very new to Scrum, I know there's so many facets of IT, but Scrum just really stood out to me, and that's why I'm really trying to get into that field. But I know the number one thing that confused me, even with researching about Scrum, was the CSM and the PSM, and I wasn't really sure about the difference or which one to go with. And I was just asking people and trying to research it. But yeah, that was really the number one question, was which one is, I don't know if I should say better, because I feel like different people have their own opinions and reasons why they go with either or.
Right.
So yeah.
So yeah, that's a great question. And you follow me on Instagram, yes? The reason why I'm saying that I'm asking is because you do, right, Ihama?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So I know I did a whole thing about the difference between both of them, CSM versus PSM. So one is certified Scrum Master, one is professional Scrum Master, right? And one is from Scrum Alliance, and that's CSM, and PSM is from Scrum.org. Now, all of the opinions I'm going to share are obviously my personal opinions, right? People have different school of thought and all of that good stuff. But on the whole educational stuff I put together, I talked about the key differences. Honestly, I wouldn't say anyone is better. For me, they both have like the same weight. Now, there are differences, of course. Like, for example, the CSM, before COVID, you had to do like 2 days, and I think you still do that now. 2 days, boot camp training. You pay for it. You have like 8 hours per day. Sorry, someone's trying to join in. You have like 8 hours per day, and you come in, do all the whole simulations, and part of your fee covers your Excel. And the word on the street, like I always like to say, is the CSM is easier. Feels like it's easier to do. Now the PSM, you don't do any bootcamp training. You literally let me just get the link and literally put it on the slide. Sorry, in the chat. You have an open assessment. So for PSM, it gives you the opportunity to obviously go to scrum.org and you have open assessment. And so open assessment is like free testing you can do to figure out exactly where you're at. And for the questions that you don't pass in the open assessment, it will kind of like give you context as to what the right answer is. Sometimes it gives you suggested readings. Now, it's easy, it's cheaper. PSM is cheaper. You don't get to do any training of any nature if you don't want to, but I absolutely recommend preparing and reading for it because it is trickier. Another key difference is CSM, you've got to renew. So you have this, renewal you got to pay for every year. But PSM, there's no renewal at all. I mean, it's for life certification, right? So it boils down to, well, what are you really looking for? Does that help? So let me get you from the biology. So if you see me looking this way, I have two screens. So I apologize for that. The questions are on here, and so it's easier for me to navigate.
Okay, wait a second.
Hello. Welcome, Jenny. Welcome, Bukola. All right, so I'm putting the link for the open assessment in the chat, okay? And that's also for anyone as well who is looking to maybe just figure out exactly what does this even mean. There you go. That's the open assessment for Scrum.org. So that's for PSM. Another feedback or tip I usually give my student is don't just do the Scrum open assessment, do the developer, do the product owner, because it helps solidify what this role stands for. So do all of them, right? So that's one way you can prepare. Immerse yourself, like even the Scrum.org website, you've got like open forum. People are chatting and talking about their experiences. If you really want to get into this field, you want to immerse yourself into what are they saying? What are people experiences looking like? What can I read? How can I understand this framework more? Because we're talking about moving careers and changing careers or trying to get into a field that feels a little bit abstract. For it to come alive to you, you have to live through the experiences of other people. So it's not just beats. It has to be something that's consistent, like literally consistent for you, right? So that's one thing I want to really tell everyone is if you want to change and you're really serious about becoming the Scrum Master or excelling as a Scrum Master, you have to take it as a full-time job. How do I unlearn and relearn and figure exactly what to do in this situation by immersing myself with the knowledge that's out there or working with a coach on all of that good stuff. So I've shared that link with you. But back to your question as well, which is when recruiters even ask for, we're looking for certified Scrum Master. Let me tell you, they don't necessarily all mean CSM, even if CSM stands for Certified Scrum Master. They just mean they're looking for a Scrum Master who's certified. And there are many awarding bodies that are out there. So it could be CSM, it could be PSM, it could be Scrum Study, it could be anyone, honestly. Yes. It's all about, well, are you certified as a Scrum Master? So, like I said, personally to me, they both carry similar. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, that's a great one. All right, who's up next? I mean, I do have someone that is actually working on the call. I do have multiple people that are working on the call. So I don't mind even putting her on there and put her on blast and getting her to share just even our experience working as a Scrum Master and what that feels like, because the people are like, well, can I even do this? What does it mean? Can I do this? I don't want to be like a fish out of water. But I know a couple of people on the call right now that are working, and I'm happy to give them a couple of minutes to share their experience if that helps. I mean, I can share mine, but I want to hear from other people who I've worked with before. So,
for those that are actually working on this role right now, are you limited to just being a Scrum Master? I feel like in some organization, they might give you opportunity to actually engage in business decisions conversation or to help with understanding business requirements and how you can inform a product development. Do you see yourself like branching out to do more, or is it just limited to facilitation, impediment removals, and helping your team grow? I would love to know.
That's a great question, thank God. I have my 2 cents, but I'm going to let people on the call answer. That question doesn't have a blanket yes or no answer.
Yes, trust me, I want to hear your 2 cents, but also I know your 2 cents is absolutely valuable. Why I gave that question.
So so for me, there's no black and white yes that this is how it is. It depends on the organization. And so the way for you to have an idea of what you're stepping into is doing your doing your interviews, is to ask questions like, well, where are we? Where is the company at in their agile transformation? How many Scrum teams are there? What is the ratio of Scrum Master to Scrum team? What's the ratio of product owner to Scrum team? That gives you a lay of the land. what are the challenges that the Scrum team is facing? If they begin to say things like, well, our backlog is never prioritized, and a product owner that is working for 5 products and 10 teams, you already know that when you come on board, you probably be wearing the owner responsibility hat, right? So the organization is what will determine what you would do. So I'm going to open the floor for either Jenny to probably answer this question as well. Jenny,
sure. Yeah, I'm very happy to answer that question. Good evening, everyone. So I think he mentioned something that struck me, and it says limited, right? The Scrum Master role is not a limitation in any way, because in your day-to-day as a Scrum Master, you definitely wear different hats, right? At the start, when I started, I felt like, okay, after facilitating the event, then I'm done and I can chill and relax for the rest of the day. But it's definitely way more than that. There are matrices to start to put together, start to figure out you just want to know where the team is at every point in time. You're wearing different hats. You're wearing the hat of facilitator. You're wearing the hat of a mentor. You're wearing the hat of an impediment remover. You're resolving conflicts. You're coaching. You're teaching. At other times, you're just observing. Right. You're just sitting back and just trying to figure out the lay of the land, like Stella said, trying to understand what is happening around you. Believe you me when I say it can take a whole day, and sometimes it can be really draining. Sometimes I'm not a talker, but at the end of every day, sometimes I'm like, God, where do I even get the energy to say all the things I say? So being a Scrum Master is actually a lot. There's a lot of work involved in it. So yeah, you could decide to go the route of a product owner. Well, where I work, I actually do product owner, stuff as well. Stella is aware of that. So again, it's really not what I wanted to do. It was what the organization threw at me, right? So it can go anyways, but trust me, you have your hands full first and foremost as a Scrum Master. I think it will take you a while before you decide to start to chase after other roles, maybe product management or, any other thing you might want to go after. But anyways, you have your hands full as a Scrum Master. I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I remember, I think Jenny was almost becoming a Jira administrator.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Jira expert, I'm wearing different hats, again, I see the positive part of it. And yes, it's draining, but the positive part of it is no day is the same. But you have to understand the Scrum framework to know how to draw the lines without becoming resistant. Because if you're someone who wants to grow, you'll be okay with taking extra responsibility, but not at the detriment of your actual work, which is being a Scrum Master. So you can say yes, because first of all, even if you pull me to work on Jira XYZ, and that is not my title, but it's an experience that you can't take from me. Well, guess what? I have gotten it, right? If you want me to work with the product owner and prioritize the backlog, well, that is not my role and responsibility. I'll make sure that I kind of like verbalize and I make it really clear to you. But I'm absolutely happy to work with the product owner in prioritizing the backlog. Well, guess what? You cannot take that experience from me, because in teaching you, I'm also learning, right? And so you have to be open to that. But don't then become someone who does everything, where you now lose the essence of what your role is. So you have to understand the fundamentals of your role. And your role as a Scrum Master, like Jennifer also said, is, well, you're there to be a true leader to your team. So you lead your team by serving your team, helping them, empower them, you're enabling them, right? You're making them think out of the box, looking at what impediments that are out there and figuring out, well, how do we remove these impediments? You're coaching them on the Agile framework because you have been an expert at it. You're facilitating, you're working closely with stakeholders and internal or external stakeholders. You are making sure that the value of your team the visibility is up there so people can understand the value that your team is providing. You're ensuring that your team is thinking about quality as they work, right? You're ensuring that your team have an environment that is conducive for them to come to their true self, so that when they come to Scrum ceremonies or when they come to work, they feel empowered to do it. So that is kind of like the core of your role. Every other thing is how you now say, well, how can I add value? How can I position myself as an SME? How can I position myself as someone who can help the organization? What else can I do? Well, this is blocking my team. Well, can I learn this so that I can help my team be better, or even help the organization be better in the long run? So all of that is determined by, well, what kind of organization do you work at? I know someone, a student of mine who's working out, and her ratio is 1-to-1, meaning that she's a Scrum Master for just one Scrum team. But I also know someone who is almost like 1-to-6, 1-to-7. She has 7 Scrum teams. They don't have the same problems. They have 2 different problems, right? So I would say to kind of like get a lay of the land is to ask these questions either during your interviews, but guess what? You can also do a Google search. You can do a Google search, and hopefully, maybe, for example, you can use Glassdoor website. If someone works there within the Agile team or Scrum environment, maybe they put some concerns on, or they've given you guys some insights and kind of like give an idea of how the organization is, is, because every company says they are transformed in agility, but that's not the truth. So, and I see your question in the chat, so I feel like we kind of like answered a part of that. Is that correct? About the
yes, we did. We did. It's just a part of, how do you draw that line can be kind of, I don't know, jaded and unclear, because, they will tell you prior to applying for the position, this is what the requirements were. So.
I'm trying to understand that part of your question. So you say requires you to have project management. Okay.
Yes. So the learning and development program manager role, they want me to be able to serve as a Scrum Master, help with their Agile transformation. They want me to help with product. It's not even just project management, but it's more product development, and help with all phases of that product development, from ideation to deployment phase. They want me to serve as a project manager in some specific projects.
Yeah.
And, they want me to work with 3 different teams. And a lot of their teams are like external teams that since it's part of like the university part of the organization, I will be working with external partners and clients. So they have me doing like so many different things, but at the same time, in my second interview was all about, my knowledge on Scrum, my Agile methodologies. They actually told me that they are at this hybrid phase where they use Scrum and Kanban. So they tested me on that too. So I'm like, man, I'm doing all these.
well, I hope you're negotiating well when it comes to salary, because it's very obvious that they want you to do everything.
Yeah,
So I just got a private chat, and person said you might want to run. Oh, goodness.
The salary is great,
but guess what? Thank God, yeah, you can't go into that company and say you don't know, you did not know what you were in for.
No, I can't. It's like, I know that, literally, that's what I'm telling you. Like, but because I know you have experience, at what point do you start negotiating to,
So this is it. They're not clear on what they want. They don't know what they want, right? They just want someone who can do a plethora of things. All right. And that can be exciting for some people, but it will definitely be draining. So I'm hoping that when you get in, that your manager is able to set your priorities pretty right, so that you have a clear focus on what you should be working on, right? Because of course you're going to have a manager. So it's not about drawing the line now. It's not about, well, when I come in, what are the things you want me to focus on? Because I cannot focus on everything. Is there a Scrum team you want me to work with? Is there a product you want me to be a part of? Is there a project you want me to manage? Because I cannot do everything all at the same time, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, in this interview that I'm going through, so the next interview, I'll be working with their high product. I'll be interviewing with their high product generating team. How can I support their go-to market department? And I'm like, a lot of these things I know now is based on research and stuff that I've read, but I haven't really worked in product development project. But with my studying and pressures helping me understanding, but that's a lot of like work,
right?
So in a way, I absolutely agree with you. when I get there, I'm definitely going to try to learn from the manager, people that have worked in that role previously, to see how they were able to manage their work and tasks. But at the same time, I'm like, isn't that kind of unfair though? As a
Yes.
Scrum Master?
Well, your role cannot be a Scrum Master. I mean, the position says Scrum Master, but they're already telling you what they expect to do. So if that is not a Scrum Master role, they probably need to rename whatever role this is. Maybe, I don't know, master of all things. But my advice to you be, when you get in, is definitely to have one-on-ones or reach out to someone who's in the same role that you're in currently and figure out exactly what does your day-to-day look like and how do you manage these conflicting priorities. I'm sure that there are conflicting priorities. And also always ensure that you get feedback from your manager, which is, well, what do you want me to focus on right now? What is the priority right now? Because everything cannot be a priority. Now, the good part of what you have, so again, I see the positive part of it is you will learn a lot. You learn a lot. Product management, project management, Scrum. You will definitely stretch. And I think you are at this phase where you definitely need all of this experience because it will help guide your career growth, right? Now the goal is, yes, to get in, learn as much as you can learn, build your experience, understand your value. And if you want to switch, absolutely you can. If you want to stay there, you're making an impact, So let me give you another scenario. Somebody was hired in a role, but when she got in, she and her manager started to define her role and responsibility. So it's possible that might happen for you too, where you come in and they begin to decide, well, so how do we use you? What do you think your role is? I know it's almost like the upside down. It shouldn't be that way. You should have clear roles and responsibilities for someone that you're hiring. But again, companies are all different. Even the big named one that you think they have their act together, sometimes they are the worst, honestly, because they have legacy systems, there are a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of people who have been working there for a long time, and it's so hard for them to change their mindset. So they're bringing you in to come and work magic. We'll take it one step at a time. Get clear on what your priorities are. Make sure that you kill it, you do a great job, and then just begin to build that value, right? Okay, so I have a direct message as well about, this seems to be a leadership role by nature. How can you begin in Scrum in an entry? Sorry, I'm having new people coming in. How can you begin in Scrum in an entry level position and be a leader? How is that possible? In my experience, I have to work my way up. Guess what? Is that not the beauty of it? Is you come in, even if you're immersing yourself, like Scrum is just a fantastic career, because it would expose you to you. It will expose your abilities to yourself. You begin to realize the soft skills that you have that you never knew you had. You are speaking to people. You are taking ownership of rooms. You're facilitating. You're able to solve complex problems. You are forced to bring out that leadership skills that you thought you never had, right? And yes, in corporate, in previous experiences, you had to work your way up, like literally climb the ladder. But Scrum is such a role where if you do a great job, people would want to get your feedback and your input before they make product-wise decisions. That's how valuable it is. Well, it depends on how you show up. So we can have Scrum Masters who just facilitate and their work ends there. And people just see you as someone who is, one of the hats that I say a Scrum Master does not wear is you're just a secretary, or we just call you to book meeting rooms. Your role is way more than that. Yes, people think that is your role, just to book meeting rooms and take meeting notes. But your role is way more than that. So if you don't understand that, that is the cap you're going to wear. As a Scrum Master, you're the master of the Scrum framework. You are literally responsible leading your team, again, but by serving them. Because Scrum Master is one of the roles that you don't have authority. The only role that has authority in the Scrum team is the product owner. Because they have authority to obviously have the product vision, product goal, and all of that. As a Scrum Master, the only authority that you have is influence. So your team, they got to know you, like you, trust you enough for you to influence them. And so you might come into a team that have had bad experience with either a previous Scrum Master or don't know what Agile is. They're resistant to change. Their company wants to do this whole Agile transformation and they didn't get their input into that. So when you come in, you're faced with resistance immediately. And there and then, so what do? Because now you have to work with this team. You're responsible for their productivity, right? So naturally, your leadership skills show and should show. So that's why they say one of the skills you have to have as a Scrum Master is intrinsic motivation. Because if you're waiting for people to motivate you, then your team is going to fall apart. You have to motivate yourself to say, what do I want my team to look like? How agile do I want them to get to? What is blocking them mentally right now, right? How can I get them to build product that they're excited about? How can I get them to be courageous? How can I get them to focus? How can I get them to live the Scrum values without just being it, but literally just not just doing it, but really being it, right? And so yes, in Scrum, it's a leadership role from day zero. You are leading a team, that's it. That is the fundamental role of a Scrum Master. You are leading a team by serving them, not by telling them what to do, but by serving them. And another way I'm going to deconstruct this is, one of the key differences between a project manager and a Scrum Master. Project manager is responsible for the success of the project. If the project is falling apart, right? Project manager is the person you look at, like what's going on. If it's over budget, running past schedule, the risk is all over the place, there's scope creep, look at the project manager. Now for the Scrum Master, the way I explain this is every member of your Scrum team is their own individual project manager. So your Scrum team is responsible for the success of their project. You have to get your team to that level to take ownership of their project. So when whatever it is that they're working in a sprint, it's falling apart, or they don't meet their sprint goal, or they're carrying their work from one sprint to one sprint, it's not a case of, well, team got distracted, or Ruth was away on PTO and she didn't let us know before the sprint started. It's a case of the whole team didn't work together as they should. Well, how can we make sure that this doesn't repeat itself again? So every member of the Scrum team is an individual project manager. That's how I like to explain that. I hope that answered your question, Ariel. Okay.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. As I have another question in the chat about, okay, I like this. So besides listening to the team updates and showing the Jira board during the daily stand-up, what are some key things the Scrum Master should do? I feel you. I feel this question. It's almost like, well, what am I supposed to be saying anything here, or just saying, oh, are you done? Or does anybody have any questions? It's always kind of like a little bit, you kind of like get anxious, right? Especially the team is saying so many technical things and it's just flying past your ear like a fly. Like you're like, what? What did you say? So there are so many things that you can do, right? Yes, the Jira board, and don't say, oh, I'm just showing the board, and what else is right? I'm just listening, right? But there is way more than that. So what are you showing the board for? Why are we even showing the board? Why are we showing the board? I'm not just showing the board because someone said I show the board. I'm showing the board for feasibility. I'm showing the board to ensure that everyone is on the same page, like your story is in the right swim lane. I'm showing the board, making sure that your most up-to-date comments is what you're saying on the call. And if it's not, guess what? I redirect you to say, please, can you make changes on that Jira board? Because Jira board is just not a tool to manage projects. It's a tool for inspection, adaptation, transparency, visibility, and all of that great stuff, right? So you're also showing the board to get your team to a culture of using the board properly. I hope that helps, right? So I'm showing the board, but I'm also making observations of all of these little things, right? So is in the right lane? Is the right person working on it? Does it have the most up-to-date comment? Did they just say something during the daily stand-up that wasn't the comment and I think it should be in the comment? Then you can you update that after the call? All of that good stuff. You can do that. And even before your daily stand-up happens, you can send a note to your team like, hey guys, we're gonna have daily stand-up in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Please don't forget to make changes to the board so that we have the most up-to-date status of all of our issues. That's one. Now, listening is so important. Listening is so important. It's like a skill that we don't even pay attention to it. But that is one of the core skills of the Scrum Master is listening, proactively, listening attentively. And so you're listening you're listening because, well, should there be a follow-up on what this person is saying? Do I know someone who can help them? Am I sending some apprehension or attention with how this person's voice is? Is this something I should make a note of so I can research later? Do I need to give a feedback to what this person just said? Do I need to say, oh, Tom, speak to Rita after the daily stand-up because I think you can help yourselves out? So listening leads to more. And after the call, one thing that you can also say is, well, thank everybody for the great work that you're doing. But also say if anybody has any question or whatsoever, they can reach out to you. Another thing, if you want to add something extra, is you can round up with action items. So you can say, okay, So so far, Rita, you're going to talk about XYZ. You are going to talk to this person about this. Da, 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 da. If you have any question, feel free to reach out to me. I'll just be around. So that's how you can end it with the action items that came out of the daily stand-up, right? So that by the next day, you have it written down, and hopefully the team has made progress towards that, right? Another reason why listening is important as well is, well, you don't want a situation where someone is saying the same thing day after day after day after day. That means the person isn't working. That means there's a roadblock that has been consistent over days and you've missed it. So again, it's not just listening and sharing the board, it leads to more of that, okay? Questions. I love these questions. Thank you guys ladies for sending them. So I know I got one that I said I was going to ask on this call as well regarding about not having experience and trying to get into this field. Yes. So not having any certification experience, and I don't know where to start. I just know the things that I have seen and I'm pretty capable of, which is a good first step. And being in sales for past 5 years, and all of that great stuff. It's first thing, you've seen the role of a Scrum Master. So I would say for starters, you just understanding who a Scrum Master is and what a Scrum Master does. And until you do that, we can't really add on to that. So you need to have an idea of what you're going into. Why? Because when you figure out what a Scrum Master does and you look at the soft skills that a Scrum Master has, you realize that you actually have this. You actually do already have this, the leadership, the communication, especially when you're comparing to the skills that you use in your current role, right? You have all of these skills that will make you excel as a Scrum Master. And then you figure out, well, what does the Scrum Master do on the job? Well, it's way more than facilitating ceremony, but we can start with that. Are there meetings that you put together? Are there stakeholders that you talk to? Are there products that you have to sell? You have to understand the product, sell it to someone, try to get their buy-in, and then make sales. Well, that is a big deal, because as a Scrum Master, you might have processes you want to put in place that you got to sell that process to someone, to stakeholders or to management or to leaders, get their buy-in and implement that process. It's kind of like the same thing. But the reason why people struggle with saying, well, I don't know if I can become a Scrum Master or I'm stuck, is because if you don't know what a Scrum Master does, if you don't know the expectation of a Scrum Master or what the hat the Scrum Master wears, it will look like it's way far beyond you. You have to start looking at the similarities between what you're currently doing and what a Scrum Master does. Now, if there are no similarities, if you feel the gap is way wide, then look into your current role. What part of the Scrum framework can I begin to implement step by step? What can I begin to do? Well, for you to even know what to begin to do, what do you need to know first? Well, what is Scrum and what does the Scrum Master do? And so if you can answer that, right, and you begin to implement most of this things step by step, in some way you get experience, you want to research more, I would even say definitely, sign up to a training program, get a coach, because studying is great, but you need someone who's been in the field to kind of like give you scenario-based questions or scenario-based situations that would open your mind to be like, well, I didn't see that coming. Or so this is what happened, so this is what I should do, this is how I should respond, and all of that great stuff, right? So for starters, with a sales role, there are already similarities between what a salesperson probably does and a Scrum Master does, especially in the line of soft skills. And so understand what the Scrum Master does and look at the similarities. And then part of the Scrum framework, which is the Scrum Master as a master of the Scrum framework, well, how can I begin to implement that framework in my current role so that I get my feet wet and I know, okay, so I need more training at this, I need a coach here, I need to do that, and hopefully that would help in the long run. Okay, so that was one of the questions that I got. Let's see, anybody have questions on the call before, while I keep digging into my... That's a great one. I noticed my back end team, right? They're great, but it lacks details. And they have a lot of carryover, of course. What is one tip you would give? I would say during your retrospective, right? I would say to that, my brain is thinking in two directions. You can modify one of the retrospective in this fashion, which is, can we go over all of the stories that did not get completed and why? You know where you're leading to, but you don't want to tell them where the destination is. So if they begin to look at the stories that did get completed and talking about why, something tells me that probably more than 50% of the people who work on stories will say, well, we didn't understand the requirement, or it wasn't clear exactly what we're working on, or it was bigger than we thought it was. Okay? Why was it bigger? Why didn't we understand the requirement? They don't story point their stories. Okay, so let me go back. So sorry, I'm just getting direct messages, so that's what I'm reading. So going back to teams that carry stories sprint over sprint, what do you give? I would say do retrospective. Get them to talk about the stories that got carried over and why did it get carried over. They'll definitely talk about the fact that maybe something was bigger than they thought it was, or the requirement wasn't clear, or they were not available, all of that good stuff. Sorry, let me read. All right, so you want to ask them why. So what can we do differently? Why wasn't the requirement clear? Why wasn't the access criteria clear? What happened? They'll give you more insight. So it's one of two things. Either you guys will decide that probably we need better refinement session. Probably we need a standard. So what is before we say a story can be worked on a sprint, can we come up with a checklist? What does this story have? Does it have clear acceptance criteria? Is the requirements clearly written out? Do we have definition of done, understood as a team? That is probably one of the action items that will come during the discussion, doing retrospective, right? Also, remember I said, figure out exactly why. Let them be the one to answer that question. Why is it that we are carrying this story sprint over sprint? And then lead them to where you want to lead them to. If you want your team to stop or to reduce your carryover, and carryover is okay, but if it's something that's consistent, something, there are so many reasons for that. Either bad acceptance criteria, not clear requirements, wrong estimation, capacity is not as it should be, people are distracted. So until you really find out until you really figure out why, every solution that we give could be answering the wrong why. So get your team to figure out why. Why are we carrying over? Because you're saying it's because it lacks details, but it could be more than that. So it's not that they're getting the details wrong. They're not getting enough details from the product owner. Why are they the ones writing, not the product owner? Do they even have a template? Do they know what should be contained in their stories before we can work on it? Maybe they don't. And that's why you are on the team to help them. Help them with the right questions so you guys can get to the right answer. And then they don't point their stories. Why? Why don't they point their stories? Why? That's my question. Why don't they point their stories? Did something happen before in the past? I mean, do you have an insight to that?
I would say, okay, like I said, I just joined. So based on my observation, they've been together for 3 years. And even my manager, he's been with them 7 months. They haven't pointed their stories. They don't point their stories. And he said, even before he started, their user stories only had titles. There was no description, no AC, and they all write their stories. And the product owner, basically, we have like a product team. They don't join in during our grooming session. It's just us, the Scrum Master, the engineers, and the manager. And I guess we have how some organizations have like quarterly initiatives, like we get the priorities from product team, what are going to be the initiative we're working on for this current quarter. So that's what they work on. But as far as product joining the grooming, saying, oh yeah, I want these, for them to say, oh, these are the priorities from the product side, they don't have that. They just work on whatever stories as a team. We have 2 tech leads. So I noticed they don't point their story. They don't do capacity planning. There's a lot of carryover in their story like details. And when we do grooming, some of the stories are not ready yet because they need to collaborate with one another, or they need to reach out to another team that's part of the whole product to get more clarification, or is not ready to be worked on yet.
Right. And that's a whole lot of issue, right? And that sounds like it's more even organizational. And now you're coming here and trying to change their culture and their way of working. So absolutely expect resistance, but I would say begin to influence change one step at a time, right? Ask them, like, how do you feel as a team when you don't complete your stories? How do you feel as a team? What can we do differently? What is one step we can do differently in the next sprint? Can we get our product owner attending our grooming as just a first step? Can we get like a checklist of what should be in the description of the JIRA for our stories? Can we start estimating? Even if it's all a mess, that's fine, but can we just start? So influence change one step at a time, because all of the changes that I have in my mind right now, you will probably get them like woozy. So just one step at a time. And so the retrospective is one place you can start this, but don't expect a full action item at the end of one retrospective. Just begin to sow the seed, making them see the impact of just this whole habit that they have going on. And I mean, 3 years is quite a long time. They should probably already know this. And I'm surprised that management is not requesting for change. And probably they are, and I might be wrong, right? From the upper level, because if they're carrying over stories, it means that, release planning is all over the place. It means that product timeline is all over the place. It means that things are not getting out when product management, for example, is expecting it to get out. So you should be affecting the organization and the revenue of the company. So there must be a need for change. And so see yourself as a change agent, which is, well, how can I switch the way we're working one step at a time? Get the product owner more involved. Work with the product owner and even development team. What can be our checklist? What do we need? What is our definition of ready before we even work on anything? Then what is our definition of done, right? Well, how can we start story pointing? So you might have to do story pointing session with them, or get a base story that will set up, like, help them with comparison of story pointing for other stories as well. So in summary, your job is secure.
Yes, it's a lot, and you spot on. Everything you said is spot on. That's exactly the thoughts that I had regarding that as well. Really spot on. And they say they have no issue. I did one-on-ones with them, and they was like they have no issue delivering. And I look over their velocity chart. They're overcommitting, but they're not meeting. And that's with both of my teams. They carry over. But the other team, they do story point and they do capacity planning.
And they still
they still carry over. And the thing is, like, we did sprint planning today. Some of the stories are in final review. And they said, oh yeah, when we started a new sprint, they said, oh yeah, I'm going to update that ticket today or tomorrow. It's like and another thing, we're conducting sprint retro and demo before the sprint ends. The sprint usually ends Wednesday evening or Thursday, which is today morning. So we don't even conduct metrics. They told me they haven't conducted metrics in the past several months. So, and the reason why they don't move some of the tickets into final review, because product wants to review the demo before and agree to whatever they're showcasing before updating some of those tickets. And that's when today they're rushing to update the statuses, or sometimes they're not done with that work. They still have to get it done before they can move it to the final swim lane or to done in testing.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So your demo, your demo and your retro happens before the sprint ends.
Yep. Like Wednesdays. It happened Wednesdays, and then we do sprint planning, which was today.
Okay. Well, again, it's definitely how the system is set up there. And I'll even say, even the change I want you to roll out, probably roll it out with one team first and see how that plays out, and then duplicate it for your other team as well, right? That's interesting.
Is that normal for your demo and retrospective to happen before the sprint ends?
So when we say normal, again, agility is very, very objective. Typically, the retro and the demo should happen at the end of the sprint, right? I mean, sprint planning starts your sprint. But the demo is happening for her team because the product management or product owners want to see what the team has done before you can move it to closed. So there's a high possibility that they might not like what the team have done and they move it back to in progress. So my question then is, I wonder why the product owners are not following through the process of development. Why are they waiting to the end? That is my question. Because if you're following through development process, you should know if the team is doing the right thing. So for some teams, a part of that definition of done is PO review. So product owner review exactly what the team is doing. So when we're doing the demo, we're not saying it for the first time. We have a good idea, right? I mean, and if product owner is fine and QA have done the review, it means, it's met the acceptance criteria. And so it should be demoable. But if we are waiting to the end to show you with the possibility that you might say you don't like it, then something needs to change.
To rework.
Okay, so I know we have about 6 minutes left, and I have a couple of questions here. Quick. How does a person without any experience in Scrum get a Scrum Master job? A lot of people have met prior knowledge or experience, so it's easy for them to transition into Scrum role. My current career is totally different. I'm so nervous that this change may be harder. Please change your language. Trust me. Yes, actually, let me be honest. It probably will be hard, but it's very possible. It is very possible. I have medical assistant teachers, stay-at-home moms, very, very off-career people, like not anything project management or Scrum, become Scrum Masters. Not a lot of people you might have met. Maybe it's time for you to start meeting people that probably have don't have prior experience or knowledge about Scrum. I mean, I know, again, I'm going to probably lean to Jenny again, because I know Jenny did not have experience as a Scrum Master. Thank God didn't have experience as a Scrum Master. Probably, I don't know about other people's background. I'm mentioning names of people that I know. And they're, Jenny working as a Scrum Master, thank God, very close. So your current career is totally different. I don't know what your current career is. If you can DM me again, let me know what it is. And that is fine. You're changing career. So of course it's going to be hard. Of course you're learning new things. Of course you're going to learn terminologies that you have no idea what it is. You're going to probably run a blank sometimes. You're going to be like, what in the world is going on? But that is okay. That is all part of the journey. That is all part of the journey. I'm not going to come and say it's easy, breezy, beautiful. No, it's all part of the journey. It's just your consistency. You know what? This is the career path that I want to take. So what steps do I have to take that will get me there? And I'm going to stay committed to the journey. If people are doing it, guess what? I can do it. If people can do it, if people can have more, so people have multiple jobs, kudos to them. People have multiple six-figure salaries. People are figuring out the similarities between their current role and what they're doing. If they can do it, you can do it. Okay. Let me know what your current career path is, so that can also give me more insight. And then for another question I have is it possible for the team to not need to test every story in a sprint? And also the QA board is different from the development board. Now that's another very, very unique internal organizational structure. Is it possible for them to move something to done without testing? Well, what is the definition of done? I will go back to that. What is the definition of done? Does that include QA testing? If it does, then it should not be happening. We should not be demoing a story that has not met the definition of done. If it's still in the QA review swim lane, the story is not done. Until QA moves it to completed or to done, then the story is really done, and then that story should be can be counted towards velocity and all of, or be demoed, right? So, I mean, it's just basic testing. And there's developers do their own testing as they build their code, unit testing and all of that. But QA testing is, I mean, it's the gate is there for a reason. Because if the teams don't do QA testing, it means that how do we guarantee the quality of work that they're doing? And I can best guarantee that if teams don't do testing, they have a lot of bugs that are just waiting to be unleashed, because the quality of the work cannot be guaranteed. The team responsible for testing did not test it. Well, how do we do regression testing, performance testing, and all of that good stuff, right? So no, if the team is doing that, we want to go back to why. What is going on? Are we in a hurry to push out stories, features, to release them? What is the impact to this? What can we do differently? Do we need more QA team members, right? Do we need to take enough work that the QA can actually work on? Is it that the QA capacity is half? That's why the team capacity is 100%, QA is 50%. And of course, they want to just quickly push out work. We want to change that mindset. Is that it's not about speed now, it's about quality. Quality, not speed. And now if you have the QA board different from the development board, this is where it gets trickier as well, because why do they have two different boards? And something tells me it's because the QA team members probably are working on other stories that are not for the team specifically. So they have multiple priorities and multiple focus, right? And for that way, you cannot just change that structure, but you can have conversation with your QA manager, with the QA manager, for example, to say, what's the reason why we have different boards? Because the impact is when your team is doing sprint planning, you don't know the capacity of your QA team member. So your developers, sometimes they don't even take into account QA capacity, just say yes to everything. And then by the time we get into the sprint, you have more work that the QA cannot test, and best guarantee you have spillovers, right? So why is the board different? And is there a way for us to merge the board of, like, merge the work that a QA team member for the team is doing on your board? Is there? But I've seen this happen. Let me tell you, I've seen this happen so many times when the QA board is totally different from developers board. So it's not a unicorn. It's not a strange thing. It actually happens. All right. So social services as a psychologist, let me tell you, I mean, one of the role of a Scrum Master definitely is to be a psychologist. So if you're already a psychologist, my dear, you probably have the upper hand than a lot of people who are against Scrum for the first time. You'll be able to navigate the intricacy of the human mind and the resistance that people usually would put up when it comes to change. So you do have a skill right there, but I see why you think they're not close. Because yours sounds more like social services, and Scrum sounds more like tech. But let me tell you, there are Scrum Masters that work in varied industry, insurance, food, even the Weather Channel, massive grocery stores, right? So Scrum Master is synonymous to people are not making synonymous to tech, which is okay because of course software companies need Scrum Masters. But let me tell you that again, there are multiple industries that you can work in, not necessarily tech. They might have an IT department, but you can always utilize Scrum in every area that you're in. So I want to say this for everyone who is trying to get into Scrum right now, and you feel like, well, how do I build that experience? Like I said, you have to understand what Scrum is, who a Scrum Master is, and figure out how do you close the gap? How do you utilize the skills that you have now? And there are multiple ways you can build experience. I'm going to do a video of that later, but just a quick summary. Even your churches, if you go to church, community programs at home, you can create a project with your friend and just say, you know what, we're going to create a project, we're going to create something, and we're going to do the whole Scrum framework, and we're going to act like as if we're Scrum Masters. If you don't begin to visualize it, it becomes harder. It's knowing that you can get this is 50% of the journey. The remaining 50% is, well, what are the tangible steps that I can take to make this happen? If you don't take a step towards it, the mountain will always feel like it's way out of reach and it's impossible for you. So, but with your current role as a psychologist, let me tell you, that is very important. Empathy is one of the skills that a Scrum Master has to have. I mean, I want to believe psychologists have empathy skills as a natural. So you do have some of these soft skills. It's now about how do I get that experience as a Scrum Master. And I hope I've been able to answer everyone's question. First of all, even type the question regarding the testing, I would say go back to your team and say, what's the definition of done? If they don't have it, that's okay. I've had Scrum Masters join Scrum teams, and one of my students, her first retrospective was to get the definition of done from everybody, get their inputs, and she put it in the Confluence drive and shared it with everybody. Sometimes they don't have that information. That is why you're on the job, to help set these processes in place. But if you're not a Scrum Master, if you're not a master of the Scrum framework, you will not know what the definition of done is. You won't know what the definition of ready is. So you know this, and you're the expert, so.
I was going to say something, when I started my journey with Stella, I was taking a project management certification, and everything I knew, all of my work experience were related to project management, program manager. And during the lectures, I will be imposing my project management knowledge on Stella. And like if I had to do a lot of those, not necessarily on learning, but understanding that being a Scrum Master is different, and Stella helped me through that journey. Doesn't matter what you're doing now, in as much as you have that learner mindset and you're open, if you take her certification class or any Scrum, resource class you want to take, it's easy. You would get it. The honest truth is, Stella made me understand that I've actually practiced Scrum in so many areas of my career journey. And, then putting it all together was what she actually helped me. Now, when I talk about Scrum, it's like, oh my God, no, it's not like I'm an expert, but, there was so many unlearning that I have to do and learning that I had to do that, get you to that comfortability. With psychology too, I would tell you, yeah, so you're way ahead. Like you would start picking up things from your career path that actually aligns with what the Scrum principles, values, and every other event or artifact that is in that framework.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Well, How has the session been? Let me know in the chat. How has it been? You can say it in the chat. You can say it on call. This is first live session that I'm doing. And also let me know if you want me to keep doing this. I know I'm shooting myself in the foot, but that's okay. And again, if you want to know how to work with me, that's fine. I think Carla has put that in the chat. We have multiple services, so you can jump on my 6-week course if you want to do that. You're welcome. It's my 6-week course, so you just becoming a certified Scrum Master, and we have other support programs. So on-the-job coaching, resume assistance, interview preparation for those who probably already have the class or have gone through a course and they need help standing out for for interviews. You can do resume and interview as single products or single services, or you can merge both. And then on the job support as well. On the job support as well. So I know some Scrum Masters have got into the job and they realize, oops, oh my God, they didn't tell me this one. What am I supposed to do? It's, and I get it, so that's why I'm there. I'm literally your, what's it called? One call, one dial, one call. Your SOS basically, so able to help you answer any questions you have session with you to do mastermind, to prepare you for the next week, to guide you as to what to say, how to say it, things like that. Do a deep dive on what the problems are within your team, make you stand out as the expert that you already are. So that's for my on-the-job on-the-job session. I'm loving this feedback about we need continuous session. First of all, let me drink some water. Listening to you is always an eye-opener. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the questions as well. Definitely, we will let you know about how to continue being a part of us. I believe you're a part of the Mighty Networks, which is our community. So plug in there. If you have any question, ask this question there. I will try my best to answer them as much as possible. You can also sign up to our mailing list, mstartechnologies.com. If you want to know more about our coaching program, you can click on this link, which I'm going to put again in the chat. Not just coaching program, but other services that we offer. You can click on this link, and one of my team members will reach out to you and tell you what we offer. But yeah, definitely. And I'll keep you posted if we're having another session like this. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.